Thank you for joining me here today and taking the time to speak with me about the future of the global hospitality industry. Mark Hoplamazian, CEO and President at Hyatt Hotels, is an absolute honor. Thank you, Mark, for joining me.
Thank you very much, Leah, for having me.
It's really a pleasure. And let's dive right into the theme of this day, which is the future of the travel industry and looking at the vertical of hospitality. Mark, what do you expect the recovery of the global hospitality industry to look like? And also looking beyond the crisis, how do you think will the hospitality industry evolve?
Big question. So I guess what I'll say to begin with is that I've been struck by and very humbled to see the resiliency throughout our industry. Actually, I would say throughout the travel industry, more broadly defined across many different companies, not just hotel companies, but airlines, destination management companies, and of course, maybe the most difficult to manage through the restaurants and local venues. It's been amazing to watch, and yet we're not in a full recovered mode yet. And so more support is going to be required in order to help businesses survive, especially smaller businesses. Meanwhile, I think this past year has taught us many different things, one of which is that the criticality that we've always placed on safety and security does extend to medical safety and security and physical safety and security. It also extends to mental health and holistic safety and security. And every major hotel company that I know, including us, has developed a great deal of procedures, a number of things that are designed to help our own colleagues feel safe and be safe in the work environment, and also to protect and help our guests and our customers, that is corporate customers and meetings customers, to feel very safe and secure, and also fulfilled, because everyone is now starting to get back on the road. The reason I start there is because those practices are going to continue on. We are not going to be unwinding those safety protocols anytime soon. And I think the more explicit we can be about the safe environment that we're creating, the better off we will all be, because it will instill a greater deal of confidence for travelers to get back on the road and not have to think twice about whether they're going to be safe or not. And between now and the time that we get to so-called herd immunity, which is when enough people have had the vaccines to be immunized, between now and then, which is going to be some time, we do need to craft a way to assure our travelers and our customers that they are going to be safe. And that is a continuum from the moment they leave their homes to the moment that they return to their homes, and the whole travel journey in the interim. So in the immediate term, I think the next several months are still going to be somewhat uneven, because some countries, and the UK comes to mind. I have a lot of friends in the UK, and I've been keeping in touch with them during this most recent lockdown, which has been challenging. They're now starting to loosen up because the case rates come down, and they feel like they are making significant progress, which they are, on the vaccination front. But many other markets are still in different phases of reopening. And the same is true across the United States, of course, but it's also true across Europe and in Asia as well. I think China is the most recent, stark example of that, where they were really operating at a very high level of occupancies. In our case, we were in the 70% range of occupancy in the fourth quarter of last year in China, and it's now dropped significantly because there was a surge in cases. So anyway, I think the first half of this year is going to be characterized by some unevenness and different markets opening up. And then I really do expect to see some significant travel demand starting to recover, because we are already seeing corporations booking meetings as early as the second quarter, but more significantly in the third and fourth quarter. And so I have a sense that some excitement that we will see a significant inflection point. I think two other quick things. The first is leisure has been the foundation of this recovery to date, and it will continue to be. We've opened a number of additional leisure hotel destinations in Europe and plan to do more of that this year. That's very deliberate. We're looking to try to expand our leisure options for our travelers and our members. And the second thing I would say is that the ultimate outcome 3 years from now, let's say, is that we will have a full recovery. I think the nature of business travel will look different. We won't have the same component pieces, but the total level of demand will return to pre-COVID levels. I was a little bit more concerned about meetings and big convenings, but the more I hear and talk to our key corporate customers, the more confident I am that they're going to be returning to a full measure of having meetings in the future.
Well, thank you. There is some positive points in there and the reason to be optimistic. That's great to hear. And also, I know it's something that you care a lot about and you took care of within Hyatt. I'd love to hear a bit more about your perspective on social changes overall and consumer needs and how this developed. And if we look at the changes accelerated by the pandemic, what changes do you see and do you anticipate in the changes of consumer demand? And looking also into the future, what do you see as the 1 or 2 most significant changes that will stay with all of us for a long time and ultimately will reflect in the value proposition of Hyatt?
Well, I think I'll just touch on the very last question and come back to it. My quick answer to your question about what will be a lasting impact from the pandemic is the practice of empathy. So I'll come back to that in a minute. With respect to social change, there's no question that the consciousness level across the globe has increased significantly. I think it's been very acute here in the United States. Subsequent to the murder of George Floyd last May, the summer months brought a tremendous outpouring of pain and concern across many different communities. And then on top of that, the very uneven and a disparate impact that COVID has had on underserved communities has been an extra measure of challenge. First, the unemployment rates in underprivileged areas are dramatically higher than the rest of the country. Second, the death rates from COVID are higher. And finally, those are the communities that had the most significant outpouring of consciousness, awareness, but also of pain and some measure of suffering as a result of the reflection of all of the racial inequities that we have seen pour out here. And I think it has extended and impacted people around the world, actually. So I think our consciousness likewise has been raised. By the way, I am seeing more and more evidence that companies who may in the past have said, yes, of course, diversity, equity, and inclusion are important dimensions for how we operate. The level of commitment that I am hearing and seeing, and the goal setting and the transparency of reporting has all increased significantly. And I honestly do believe that this past year will serve as, in retrospect, as a key turning point for these topics. I think all companies now recognize that they need to play a role in how we bring increased equity and inclusion into our workplace for the benefit of our colleagues, of course, but also for the benefit of our guests and our customers and the communities in which we operate. So we established a program called Change Starts Here, and we focus really on 3 topics. The first is the inclusivity and the representation of underserved minorities in our own ranks, that is to say, in our leadership and in our employee base. The second dimension relates to who we support and how we actually engage with community-based organizations to support communities that need it the most. I think employment is probably at the top of our list because we feel that the hotel industry provides many different options for people to come into jobs without a lot of skills, but then can build careers there. And the third area is who we buy from and paying attention to our supply chain and procurement practices to make sure that we're including businesses that are owned by minorities and women and other people who need additional support in order to have the ability to build wealth and build employment base of their own. So you asked, what did we experience during COVID-19 that will last? And I believe the practice of empathy is really at the top of my list. We, for many years, have focused on the practice of empathy as a critical dimension, a critical capacity at Hyatt. We have a purpose as a company, which is to care for people so they can be their best. And while many hospitality companies talk about serving their guests and serving their customers, care is a different dimension than serving. And in order to care for someone, you actually have to practice empathy and understand where they're coming from and what they actually need, and then make sure that what you're doing, the actions that you take, are purpose suited to the needs that they've got. I can push service towards you, but if I'm not paying attention to what you actually needed, it's not really an expression of care. So we hold this dear, but I think over the past year, what's become clear is that the practice of empathy is essential to staying in touch with and understanding how your colleagues are doing, because everyone has experienced tremendous stresses and strains, psychological and mental challenges, and staying close to people and really checking in with them, as opposed to the passing comment, which is, "Oh, how you doing? Good? Okay, fine. Well, here's what I need to talk to you about." It's deeper than that. It needs to be. And I think that if everyone continues to practice a heightened level of empathy, everything will be better. I think our political discourse will be better. I think our approach to public health will be better. I think how society operates and how communities are served will be better. And of course, I personally believe that hospitality has the opportunity to bring a lot more humanity into what we do and elevate the human condition through the practice of empathy in our hotels.
Well, I couldn't agree more with that. And it's very encouraging words from you, Mark. Thank you so much for taking the time to speaking with us here today and sharing your thoughts with us. And well, I wish you all the very best, you and the Hyatt teams. And hopefully we meet one day personally and we can stop with these virtual meetings.
I very much look forward to that, Leah. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mark. Mark Hoplamazian, CEO and President of Hyatt Hotels.